Hello, TCI, Jonathan's Refuge, all of our faithful followers and friends out there. I hope that this beautiful Thursday evening that you guys are blessed and loved and enjoying your week as we are. Let's jump right into our message as we do. For those that are in the Marysville Church, hello, I love you all. I wish I could be there with you guys tonight. Cece is the best looking of both of us. I know that she tells you guys that I'm the better looking one, but it's not true. She is the better looking one. So she'll be there amongst you all and fellowshipping and celebrating the church tonight with you guys. I have a leadership training actually that I have to attend. So I will get into the message. And what is the message titled? Well, that's important, right? What are you willing to do to succeed, right? What are you willing to do to be victorious? Victories come to those who are can-doers. What does that mean? People who can do things, right? Are you a can-doer or are you a I can't do it? There's can'ts and cans. There's won'ts and there's wills. There's I don't know how, and there's I will find a way. And that is a mindset. It is a very thin line to dance, but it's the difference between why you succeed in a marriage, why you succeed in a business, why you succeed as a parent, why you succeed as a minister, as a bishop, whatever it is you're doing. And so let's look at some ancient families' lives. Turn to the Bible. If you have your Bible, we'll be in the book of Genesis, the first book. Chapter 29, the very end of it. And I'm not going to read the whole story, but there's a story in chapter 29 about a man named Jacob. His name was changed to Israel. And Jacob had a woman, her name was Rachel. And they were married eventually. And they had 12 sons who became the 12 tribes of Judah, which means the state of Israel. The country Israel has 12 states. Those 12 states are named after this guy's 12 sons. And so he is the father of Israel, in essence. And now what's interesting about this is Jacob first met his wife, Rachel, and fell in love instantly. Like he was, bam, head over heels in love. And he wanted to marry her. So her dad's name was Laban. So he went to her dad because back then you didn't talk to the girl. Matter of fact, you never did anything with them. You didn't even see their face on the wedding night when you had sex in the bed. You were covered. So it was an interesting way of how they did things. So the father said, I will give you. Now, that wasn't his first daughter. He has another daughter, the oldest and first. This was actually his youngest and most beautiful daughter. And so she was the one he fell in love with. And he said, the father-in-law, Laban, said, if you will work for me on my plantation and my farms and my fields for 7 years, if you'll do that, then I will hand you my daughter Rachel's hand in marriage. So he worked 7 years in the fields, tending this man's flocks and all that stuff. Got married on the wedding night. Laban handed Jacob his wife. Jacob thought it was Rachel. Went to the marriage chambers. Woke up the next morning. Protocol is to see the beautiful face. Face comes up. Uh-oh. Who's this person? Her name is Leah. You're not Rachel. You're the older sister. You're the first one. I wasn't promised you. Wow. The father-in-law played a trick. He knew he couldn't get rid of his oldest daughter because no one wanted her. So what does he do? He tricks a man. Now, how would that make you feel? What would you do if you just found out you spent 7 years of your life building someone else's farm to marry the daughter that you're in love with, only to find out that he tricked you on the wedding night, and now you're bound to some other woman that is not the woman you wanted? I know a lot of people, including me, that probably would just go get a rock and smash his head in. I'll be honest with you. The old me would have just knocked the guy out, probably killed him, and then still went and got my soon-to-be bride. Okay? I'm being honest. A lot of people would have done that, lost their cool, gone off and punched him or try to take him to court, sue him. I don't know. There's a lot of things people would do. But the father said, and he just was honest. He said, why would I give you my youngest and most beautiful when no one wants this one? I'm going to give you this. And he's like, that's not what we agreed on. Now you need to honor your deal. So when you learn the story, the father finally says, oh, fine, I'll give you Rachel also as your wife, but you got to work another 7 years. Wait a second. You made him work 7 years for one daughter, and then you didn't give him that daughter. And now he's got to work another 7 years to get the original daughter that he was promised as his wife. Now, I know as I say all this, you know what you're thinking. This is horrible. Men bartering with women. I'm not disagreeing with you, okay? This is how it used to be. And so when you look at that, I like to just read a quote from John Maxwell. John wrote a Bible. John's book is called, if you see it there, it's the Maxwell Leadership Bible. And John Maxwell is a good friend of ours. He wrote one of the most famous books on earth. It sold more copies than you can take a minute. I think it's like 5 million copies approaching now. But it's called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And John is one of my personal mentors in my life that I've known since I was a young man. And I like how he looks at the relationship. So I'm going to read it straight out of his book. It's a commentary on what I just told you about this situation with Jacob and Leah and Rachel. So it says, John says, leaders find, this is the law of victory. He refers to this as the law of victory. Leaders find a way for the team to win, states the law of victory. That means good leaders are whatever it takes people. They are the go-to guys and gals who always find a way to achieve their goals. Such a description certainly fits Jacob, the stubborn young man who fell in love with Rachel. After requiring Jacob to work 7 years for his younger daughter's hand in marriage, Laban substituted his older daughter, Leah, and Jacob didn't discover the deception until the morning after his wedding night. Some men would have battled Laban. Others might have simply walked away. Jacob, he fumed. He got pissed. I put in the pissed part, by the way. But he didn't give up. He loved Rachel so deeply that he did whatever he had to do. He worked 7 years to get her. Jacob practiced the law of victory as a leader who did whatever it took to reach his goal. There's a lot of ways I could talk about this topic. First one that comes to mind is myself and my wife. My wife lived 2 hours from me when I met her. 2 hours, and that's with no traffic. Throw traffic in on a Friday to go see my wife was 3 hours. Now, in the beginning, I would drive down, pick her up, 3 hours, and then drive all the way back up here where I lived, get her a hotel so she could stay there, and then we spent the weekend doing things. And then I had to drive all the way back on Sunday to turn around and come all the way back to get home at the end of Sunday so that I can get a couple hours sleep to be back at my construction company at 5, 6 in the morning. Now, as I look at my wife across the room, I didn't have to do that for 7 years. But how many years did I do that, honey? 2? 3?
A year and a half. So almost a year.
No, more than that. We've been together 4 years.
Yeah,
so
we were
minus the 1 year, that'd be
we were
3 years.
For a year.
So yes, so that means we were married for our first year and didn't live together. So I still had to drive every single week, and I let her know I chose you every single week. But I can relate because I love her. I cherish her. There's something about her that there's a picture that sits on my desk. I'll grab it right here. This picture of her. I saw this picture. This is the first one. The first pictures I saw of my wife, and that's my little granddaughter right there. And they're playing in the snow, and there's Cece, and she's, of course, falling on her butt or making snow angels or doing something. But it was her smile. It captivated me. It just mesmerized me. And then I saw a few posts, and the woman I fell head over heels. So she was worth it. Then after I won her hand, I remember her telling me that she dated a few people. I didn't. I wanted people to know I didn't date anybody, just so you know. I was fully single, and I was not on one of them dating sites. Wow. And so she was telling me about some of the guys that would, call to date her. This one guy lived like 45 minutes away, and he's like, that's a long ways away to be in a relationship with someone. He wasn't willing to go. I saw this woman, and I was like, she's worth 4 to 5 hours every single day I drive down there. It's a 4 to 5 hour round trip excursion. And I was working 80 hours a week, 2 40-hour jobs, building my company. But I had to work for 2 other companies to come up with all the money to build my empire. Doesn't come free, folks. This man understood that. He understood as a leader, he wanted to win. And I'm not talking about marriage, the win. You didn't win a wife. I'm talking about winning, succeeding. What are you willing to do? In my business, I can tell you right now, if you call any of my bosses, any of my previous employers, any of the men that I built their empires for them, and ask them about Jonathan Brown, here's one thing they're going to tell you. You give them a task, you give them a job, and you give them a conundrum, a problem. And it doesn't matter if he has the answer or not. It'll all be solved faster than anything else because that man is a winner. He knows how to win. I will find the solution. I will find the people who know the solution. I will come up with the answers. I will find the people who know the answers, and I will solve it. And I did it year in and year out and year in. And I made people's priorities my priorities. See, my bosses, they were my priority. By me putting them as my priority, I became their priority. And that was where I started to get the personal mentoring by the great people like the Tony Robbins and the John Maxwells and the famous people that have changed my life. But if I was just someone that was a very, not to pick on a modern generation, but the people who think they're owed everything in life, you owe me this. You're my parents. You don't owe anything to you. You have breath and life. That's what you're owed. Okay? You got that. That's it. Everything else you have to earn. Everything in this world you have to get. It's not handed to you. And this man understood that concept. And so he worked 7 more years. Today, one of our dearest brothers in the Lord and a member of our church, a pastor in TCI. This is our prison pastor. So he got out of prison, still had to serve time, ordained him. He's been out on the streets, been working the system with us and doing all the things he needs to do. He's supposed to be off parole. He hasn't done one thing wrong. He did everything right. He's followed the letter of the law. He got approval to live where he could live. He did everything right. And then he gets a new parole officer. They call them CCOs. Gets a new CCO, community correction officer. And that one comes and does his house check like every month before that DOC came by. And what happens? They tell him, you got to move out. He's like, what are you talking about? You guys approved me to move in here. Oh, well, you can't be here, and I'm sorry. So they literally forced this guy out and sleeping in his car. So now they took a guy who used to be a gangbanger and a fighter and a dealer and a very bad man, and they're starting to box him in a corner. And they think it's funny. And it's not funny. It's so not funny. And this poor man then is living in his car and he's not going back. And he's calling me and my wife and he's like, this is great. I got all this. He didn't even tell us. We found out about it. And then we're like, dude, we'll put you up in a hotel. And he's like, no. I can live in my car. And I'm like, you're going to be managing our men's homes for the rest of your life. I want to take care of you. And he's like, I got this. You guys got more important pressing issues to put money towards, because he cares that we're helping all the people we're helping. And he just doesn't care about money. And I sat there and listened to him tell me how he was being done wrong, just like Jacob was right here that we just read, was done wrong. So what is his options? What are your options in life when you're done wrong? When someone does you wrong, what are your options? You can lash out at the people. You could have lashed out at the father-in-law who tricked you. Our Pastor George could lash out at the Department of Corrections because they even said, hey, that sucks to be you, man. That's just the way it is. So you got another 3 months or 4 months of parole and you got to live in your car, because he was all excited. Parole was over this month. So that meant he could go and live wherever he wants, which means he could go back to an apartment and get a place. Well, he can't. This is a man that could snap his finger like this and have 10 kilos of cocaine sitting at his house and not have to pay for it. And in a period of 1 week could have a couple $100,000 in sales, cash, from that free shipment of drugs. That's how connected this guy is. But I asked him, why aren't you going back to that? It's right there. And he goes, that's what they want. See, they want you to walk away. That's what you could have done. He could have walked away from the daughter and said, I'm mad. I'm done with this. Forget this. But no, he really wanted it. How bad do you want it? What are you willing to do to get it? How far are you willing to go? Are you willing to get up in the morning when you say, I want to get my body in shape? Are you willing to get up and walk at 4 a.m, even though you got to go to work at 6? Or how about people that work all day and you're exhausted? my walking partner and climbing partner, Brian, he's one of our board members. This guy's makes his own living. He's got a full-time career, very successful person. He gets done with all of those work and all the projects he's working on. The last thing he wants to do is go out and exercise. But what do we do every single day? We go out and exercise 4 miles, and we're moving fast, and we put 60 pounds weighted vest on, and we're trying to stay in shape to climb these mountains to be healthy. So when we're old and healthy and not old and decrepit and falling apart. Okay. How bad do you want it? See, I don't want to be old and falling apart. I want to be old and enjoying it. So to do that, you got to do it now. Just like right now, it's wintertime. So if you want your summer body, you better be working on your summer body right now, today, this week. I joke around because, I got some wobbly bits. I'm a little chunky still, right? I still got some fat on my bones. But I'm working for my summer body in the winter. And I start early in the morning and I start late at night because I want it bad. I don't care about looking in a certain way. I'm happy with how I am and who I am. I love myself and I'm good with that. So what am I trying to accomplish then? I want to live a healthier life so I don't have to have strokes and heart attacks and all the things that I have, the cancers and the tumors. Because the law of victory says I am someone that can. So you got to ask yourself, what questions do you actually, when people ask you a question, what's your answer? Is it I can't or I can? That can't be done. But just because you don't know it can be done does not mean it can't be done. When the president of the United States said, we are going to the moon and we will be to the moon in the next decade, we in the Americas thought he already talked to people and all this stuff about NASA and scientists and said, oh yeah, we can get to the moon. He did not talk to anybody. He put out a proclamation after having a few people come back and say, hey, I think it's a chance we could create something to get us to the moon. We had no clue how to get to the moon. So how did we get there? The law of victory. The president said, we're going to be there in a decade. And he went out and he got the greatest men and said, I believe in you. Now go make it happen. And they did it. And they made it happen. There are people who can do it. See, I don't ever tell my boss I can't do it. I will say, I will find a way to make it happen. If this is what needs to be done, I'll get it done because I'm a doer. I am not one to sit on the sidelines and say, but I'm owed this because, I don't know, just because. It's not fair. Why is Bill Gates going to have billions of dollars? Because Bill Gates earned his billions of dollars and it's his money. So stop complaining about what someone else has and start figuring out how you can start winning with the law of victory. And how do you do that? You suck it up, Buttercup, just like the saying says right there in that sign. Suck it up, Buttercup. And Jacob got told to suck it up, Buttercup, so you got taken advantage of. Now you got this wife. What are you going to do about it? Work another 7 years and you can have the other one. And he said, absolutely. Now his reward was worth it. His own words. It was worth it. And they fathered the entire nation of Israel from them. My friend today, I said, was it worth it? He said, absolutely. I don't mind living in my car for a few more months because by the end of this summer, I'm going to be up there working at the company and the church with you. I'm going to be living on the main campus there that we're buying and building. And he sees the whole future of how we're able to stop this kind of stuff happening from inside the organization by working with our legislature in Olympia to make sure that the Department of Corrections are actually correcting people and not just taking advantage of situations to make them or other people continue to have budgets and resources that are wasted. So we don't get mad and angry. Instead, what do? Hey, let's see how we can improve the situation. Let's try to work with some of our law enforcement connections. Let's work with our Department of Corrections officers connections. Let's see how we as an organization can help our men and women better work with their community correction officers. So we find solutions is the difference. Instead of saying, well, it can't be done. Well, you can't get to Mars. You can't do that. Why not? Well, you have to, you can't get to 2 universes from here. Why not? 2 light years from here. Why not? Well, it's impossible. Yeah, well, 100 years ago, folks, it was impossible to go to the moon. Yet we're there. 140 years ago, there was no such thing as even a car. Well, actually, it was less than that. I think it was 120 years ago. It wasn't even a car. None. We went from horse and buggy and walking to automobiles and airplanes in 120 years to the moon. Don't tell me it can't be done. Find a way to make it happen. Be a doer. That's the law of victory. You got fired from a job? That's okay. I've been fired. It's not fun, especially when you don't think you deserved it. What's my point? Life's not fair, but you have to make a choice of how you're going to handle that. I chose that my wife was worth every minute of driving. And if you know me, my sins, my demons that I battle are on the freeway. Oh my Lord, I will pull over. I will knock someone's head off sometimes in the past. And that stuff just gets me just blood pumping and veins throbbing. And sometimes my wife would be like, why are you so tense? Because I just drove for 5 straight hours and I'm ready to kill people. But was she worth it? Absolutely. The law of victory. Did I win? Yes. Did she win? Absolutely. She won me. So my friend won today because his mindset chose, I'm not going to use this to do what all the other guys would do. Well, you know what? Send those 10 kilos. I'll get the whole thing rolling again. I'll have $500,000 in the next 3 months, 4 months. I just buy my own house and sit around and not tell DOC anything and be done with this. And they do that all the time. And that's what we are trying to change in our church, in our organizations, at Jonathan's Refuge and the Cross, so we can help people change their habits so that they can be successful at their life, whatever that might be. So as I close, I love you all. I just want you to remember something. Sometimes you got to ask yourself, is it worth it? And then if it is, you jump full force. Keep your positive attitude. Be the can-doer and not the I can't. And you will find that in life, you will find more success. I love you guys. You know the drill. As it's tattooed on the arm there, let's coexist as we live positive. Make sure we live positive with the law of victory sitting in our heart, that we are winners and not losers, that we are overcomers and achievers and not those who are put on the sidelines, that we are the lender and not the borrower. That is what I wish for you all. God bless you. I am